This panel is going to be focused on our joint degree programs here at Villanova Law, and we have students representing each of our programs here. I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves. They'll share I guess if y'all can share where you went to undergrad, the joint degree that you're pursuing here at Villanova, your class year, and then we'll get into each program specifically, and y'all can share about your stories pursuing that joint degree. I'll start with Rachel, and then we'll go to Emma, and then Evan and Tyler.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Feil. I'm a 3L at Villanova Law. I'm originally from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I went to Pitt for my undergrad, and I went straight through, so I didn't take any time off. And I am doing the JD LLM, and I think that covered everything.
Hey everybody, my name is Emma. I'm a 3L, and I'm doing the JD LLM for International Studies. So right now I'm actually in the Netherlands. I went to Carnegie Mellon for undergrad, and I graduated in 2018. And then I worked for about 2 years at Epic Systems, and they do, out in Madison, Wisconsin, they do healthcare software. So very different from law. I think that was it. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Evan. I'm a 3L and I am doing the JD MPA joint degree program. I did not go straight through at all. I am from Georgia. I went to UGA for undergrad and I graduated in 2007. Then I went to grad school in Edinburgh. So in Scotland, I did a master's and a PhD in philosophy, and then I taught for about 8 years before coming back to law school. And so now I am here at Villanova.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Myers, and I am representing the JD MBA program. I'm a 2L. I did my undergraduate studies at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And I, what was the last part of it? And I'm here to talk about the JD MBA program. So I look forward to talking to you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So each of our students here is going to share with you about their experiences in their joint degree program, the reasons why they chose to pursue that program, the benefits that they saw in each of those programs. Because here at Villanova, you're able to take classes in different disciplines outside of the law school, up to 6 credits. And so these students found it beneficial to go way beyond that, of course, to get a second degree. And one of the things here that we always sort of advertise about the law school, and I think one of the benefits that I think all 4 of these students probably identified, is that you can do joint degree programs here at the law school and complete both degrees in 3 years. All 4 of these students will be graduating with their law degree and a master's degree in 3 years. It's quite rare to see that in law programs. And so, of course, there's a lot of credit sharing between programs, but also a lot of cost savings as far as that's concerned as well. This program is special to me as well, because just like Evan, I pursued the JD MPA program when I was here as a student years ago. So always helpful to see current students as well as prospective students that are coming in, looking into these opportunities, because it is something very special that you can take advantage of to sort of vary your academic experience here at the law school. I guess to get started, we'll just start first, I guess, with Emma. Maybe we can start a little bit chatting about your experience. I know that you're abroad, as you mentioned beforehand. So actually, Emma, what time is it there? Is it?
It's a little past 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
So 5-hour difference right now.
So share with us a little bit about your decision to go abroad. I will say this much, and I think you probably know this. There are some students that come to Villanova that say, I'm going to do the JD LLM in International Studies. And then there are some that say, I think I'm going to do it, I'm not sure. And then some end up not doing it, right? Because they pursue international law here at the law school. Share with us your story about what led you to pursue this program, knowing that this is something you wanted to do, and how you sort of went through the application process. And if you can loop in Professor Edelman a little bit, share about maybe the information session that's hosted, things like that, and the application process for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I was one of those people that coming into Villanova, I knew I wanted to do this program. I was open to like maybe staying, but I was pretty convinced that I probably did want to do it at some point, even though I didn't know like what field of law I wanted to go into. But again, I was thinking about doing it. I considered international law too. But eventually, like during law school, I ended up developing an interest in intellectual property, so IP law, which is definitely has some crossover with international law at some certain points. So when I was looking into like a program, eventually like for this LLM, I decided that I want to do something related to IP. So right now I'm doing an LLM in law and digital technologies out in the Netherlands. As for the application process, it was you apply at the end of your 2L year, but leading up to that, you need to be able to finish all of your requirements, like Villanova requirements, other than professional development. I think, yeah, it was a lot of independent work, I guess, on my part to just make sure that I was, passing my classes and choosing correct classes so that I could get my credits counted. But I don't think it was like anything too stressful. And I did have help, like guidance from Professor Edelman. She handles the applications and kind of helping me through the application process, but you do definitely need to put in a good amount of independent work. I was mostly looking at schools in the Netherlands at the very end, because the school I go to right now, Leiden, is the one I originally wanted to go to anyway. So it's nice that worked out, but there are so many options. I think there's another student in a UK school right now, and I think someone else in Vienna. And I know there's also schools in Asia, and also you can, apply to a non-partner school too. So the possibilities are kind of endless. I think just, understanding what kind of degree you're looking for, like what kind of specialty area you like, I think is probably most important, but I really loved it. I would highly recommend. So yeah. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered everything there. I'm going to just go through a couple of quick, notes as far as the JD-LLM program is concerned. So as Emma mentioned beforehand, what happens is your first year of law school here at Villanova, you're going to be doing prerequisites. Your second year of law school at Villanova, you're going to be taking the prerequisites for graduation so that you can be abroad your entire third year, and you won't be needing to have done anything here on campus but for professional development, which Emma mentioned, and they work with you to sort of figure out how to do those requirements your last year. You don't apply till your second year, so it's one of those programs where you can come to Villanova, you can be thinking about it, you don't have to commit to it till later on, right? And so when you apply, usually your second semester of your 2L year, you would need a 3.0 GPA here at the law school after 3 semesters. You would need to have all of your graduation requirements completed by the end of your second year. And then there's going to be an internal application here. Emma, you probably remember that a little bit. You need approval from Villanova to then be able to submit your application to the institution abroad. Now, the external application process, the way that it's been described to, I think, students, including myself here, is that these host schools want you to come. They want you to be a part of their program. They are really excited to have Villanova students join them for their third year of law school. So it's not to say it's a process by which we have students who apply, meet the qualifications, and get denied, right? They want you to take advantage of the opportunity if you can. We have host schools that are in Europe, that are in Asia, but as Emma mentioned, there are some host schools that are approved on a case-by-case basis if a student were to petition for that school to take them for their third year of law school. A lot of this program, I think, revolves around time management and planning. Speaking to Professor Edelman, sharing your interest, learning about the time frame for when you need to apply, and have all of your ducks in a row is probably the most important part of it all. As long as you have everything set up, you're in essence, Emma, right? Like you're going to go, like you're going to find a way to go abroad. So, Emma, you want to share a little bit about maybe, as you're sort of wrapping up your time there, what you reflect back on as sort of being some of your most memorable experiences there? Do you have thoughts or plans already on what you're doing? Are you coming back here for the bar exam? Are you staying there? What's the next step?
Yeah, so my program goes all the way until the end of August. So technically I'll still be in school like a little bit past the 3L graduation date. But I will actually be coming back to Philly. I'll be working at a firm in Philly. But there are a lot of opportunities abroad too for staying there. Like a lot of my classmates are all international. They're from all over the world, and a lot of them are trying to stay in the Netherlands. So my school has also been trying to push out like job opportunities and let us know about things that are going on. And I have friends who are applying to jobs in the Netherlands. So, if I maybe if I didn't have something in Philly lined up, I might have considered doing that too. So that's also something to think about if you do go abroad. Yeah, generally speaking, I really, really enjoyed my experience abroad. It's definitely different, but it's been really nice to be able to focus on an area that I'm interested in. You know, not to say that, you know, I do miss Villanova for sure. But it's also nice to be able to take classes that are more like specialized to what you want to do. And it's also been really nice just to have like an international experience. Maybe that's very like cliche, but it's, you know, it's nice to have friends from all over the world, just get to meet people, understand like a new culture, understand like how school works over there. You know, there's good and bad to that, but again, I think so far it's a very good experience that I think everyone should try to have at some point if you can go abroad. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's been great to learn from lots of, you know, international classmates and professors. So yeah.
I know we get questions about this stuff sometimes, but what I'll share is that depending on your host institution, there have been some students that have gone abroad and joined a journal, right, at the school that they went to, or competed on moot court or arbitration teams. So there are ways to get invested and involved at your host school when you're abroad your third year. Of course, you're a student there too, so there's no reason why you couldn't take advantage of that. There's a full listing of host schools on our website, but just a couple off the top of my head would be Leiden, where Emma is in the Netherlands, Edinburgh in Scotland, Birkbeck College in London, the University of Hong Kong, Singapore. We have students that have gone to Paris, to Madrid, to Cambridge, to Japan, kind of all over. You mentioned Vienna, that as well. So it's been a really exciting program to have students do. And I will just share really quickly in terms of alumni. Emma mentioned we have some graduates that'll stay abroad, and then we'll have some graduates that come back stateside to work here. So we have some individuals that are working for major law firms out of their London and Paris offices, individuals that are working out of offices in Shanghai, people that have come back stateside to work on, you know, policy work for the government. So it really is, I think, a neat experience to be able to go abroad for a full year. Emma did speak to how it's a benefit to go abroad, but this is a real professional exploration opportunity. You're going abroad, not necessarily like junior year of college, right? Going to, you know, Italy, but you're going abroad to get a master's degree, to sort of round out your academic experience and career, and to hopefully set yourself up for something really awesome when you graduate. Awesome. If anybody has questions, please feel free to throw them into the Q&A box. We'll get to some Q&A later, but just in case you have a question about this program or Emma's experience, she'll be on to chat with you all as well. I'm going to ask our panelists, if you can, and if you're willing to, if you want to throw your email addresses into the chat box, you should be able to share it with everyone, just so that if they have questions afterwards, they can send it to you as well. I want to go to Evan next to chat about the JD MPA program. For our attendees, that's public administration, the counterpart to business administration. But Evan, if you want to share a little bit about why that program stood out to you, why you ultimately decided to enroll in that program, some of the classes you've been taking, some of the things you've learned, some of the experiences that you've had, all of it kind of that you'd like to share, I'd be grateful to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. So the JD MPA it's a really interesting program, especially I think if you want to do either nonprofit work or government agency work, although it's certainly not limited to those. So an MPA, a lot of people, they hear that like, I don't know what that means. It's Master of Public Administration. What is that? It's, well, you know, in some parts, human resource aspects of running nonprofit or government agency, the financial management aspects, the sort of policy process. So there's a lot of different ways that it could hook up with different substantive areas of law. My particular interest is more in the sort of policy analysis part. So the way the program works is if you want to complete it in the 3 years of law school, you apply essentially at the spring semester of 1L, especially if you want to apply for any of sort of like scholarships or assistantships. And then you can start during your, you can start during the summer if you want to, and you can take classes, and that's how I fit all mine in. So I did not take classes the very first summer of my 1L. I started my 2L fall taking classes. And you have to take, I think it's four classes, which are public administration theory, applied data analysis, organization theory, financial management, there's five, and leadership ethics. And then you take 3 electives. So they offer a lot of these courses in the summer. And then in addition to these regular 3-credit courses, you can take these very interesting 1-credit seminar type courses. And these count for electives. So if you decide to take one, you have to take 3 to get your a 1 elective class's worth of credit for it. And these are helpful for a number of reasons. One, they're on a very specialized topic and they're from a practitioner in that relevant field. 2, they are, most of them, 2 days long. Now it's 9 hours over 2 days, but then, you know, you've done that credit and it's off of your calendar for the rest of the semester. So it can be a good way to help you sort of squeeze in more with taking less time. I took 3 of those. I took one on labor relations, one on nonprofit advocacy, and one on government relations. And then my other elective was basically a decision making class, which is a public policy analysis class. So that's why I went into it, because I want to go into sort of government agency work. It helps you understand how these agencies function generally, not just what laws or regulations they enforce, but how they structure their people, how they divide tasks. If you are interested in becoming sort of an elected official, you want to be in a management position at some kind of agency, it is very helpful because it teaches you not just the legal part, but the working with people part. And that's extremely helpful. So you don't do the full program that an MPA student would. You do a little bit less in terms of credits because there are a lot of double counts. And it's very easy to do law school classes that count for your MPA. You will almost certainly get, I think it's 12, the double count credits just for the courses you have to take anyway, like con law 2, those count towards the towards the MPA. And additionally, there's a internship requirement that you work with the people over there to see if maybe you can have one of your internships that you do anyway during the summer count, or if you've had work experience, you can get waived out of that requirement. And it's very helpful for scheduling. All of their classes are at night from 5:20 on until 8:30 are the start times for the classes. And as of last semester, the on-campus MPA students can take online classes. And the online classes are only 8 weeks. So they're a little bit more intensive, but you get them done quickly. And they meet from 8:30 to 10:30 at night online. So it's a little bit late, but that means that you're not rushing to schedule in your law classes and having trouble getting the required classes you need. Also, it allows you to do what I'm doing this last semester. I have 16 credits sort of on the books, but I'm only taking 13 at any given time. So it kind of helps you spread out the credit load a little bit, which can make things a little bit stressful. And then the classes are, they're at a much different pace. They have a different type of assignment and evaluation, a lot more sort of small cumulative assignments, smaller essays and memos, and a lot of practical assignments. So if you're looking for a more practically oriented type of class, like some of our like trial advocacy type classes, you do practical work, you get a lot of that with the MBA.
Thanks, Evan. That's helpful. And yeah, I was just going to say that too. I'm going to come to Tyler next, but it'd be nice to hear a little bit about how you've enjoyed being in class with individuals that are oftentimes professionals, right? They may have been working in either the nonprofit sector, local government sector for 2 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years plus. How has that been for you, Evan, being able to sit alongside these types of individuals? And I know that for me, at least, the experience and exposure to being in class with them was a real benefit, getting to learn about their life and professional experiences. What have you sort of found as being interesting, having both law school friends and sort of classmates, and then MPA friends and classmates?
Yeah, it is interesting because again, a lot of them work in local government, and we don't really get to talk too much about local government in law school. We focus on federal and then sometimes state, but not even really. There's maybe one class about local government, so you get to see how that's going to work and how you as a lawyer will probably interact with people at different municipal agencies. If you do election law, you certainly will. Some of these people have worked as like court administrators, so they're the sort of people that you're going to encounter, even working as a lawyer. Some of them have worked a lot of them are former or still current military or reservists, so they have government experience at the federal level. And you mentioned also nonprofits, a lot of people who've dealt with fundraising and really know the sort of financial side of operating an organization, which you can take classes about that over here at the law school side, but there's not a lot about it, but it's still very important. We have that module that we do about financial literacy. If you want to enlarge upon that, you have to take a class on it, and most of the people who you will have class with have done something like that. So you can ask them how it really works as opposed to what you're learning in class that day. They will be able to sort of, a lot of times, teach the professor about how it works in practice when the professor is telling you. I mean, not that the professors aren't practitioners, but they don't know necessarily the nitty-gritty details of every little organization.
They can really bring it to life, I think, in a nuanced way. Tyler, coming to you next, JD MBA. Share with us about your experiences in and out of the program, applying, learning about it, deciding you want to do it. I think I remember you as a prospective applicant saying you wanted to do this program. So of course you're doing it, but just share all that you can about the program so far and why you've chosen to do it for yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil. And I had been someone who was wanting to pursue a JD MBA when I was looking at law schools. And that was kind of one of the major decisions on kind of why I came to Villanova, because in contrast to other law schools, Villanova's program is 3 years, like Phil mentioned. Most JD MBA programs at other law schools are 4 years. And for me, I knew I kind of wanted to be in and out. I went through right under from undergrad. And so I wanted to kind of, walk out of these doors and start my career after 3 years. So kind of the application process for the JD MBA program is you finish your first year of law school, which I think is, the best way to kind of set it up. You take that first year of law school, only focusing on law school. You apply in your spring of 1L year. And then you ultimately start taking summer classes in between your 1 and 2L year. And I think that's something that, is a nice kind of setup for your career. I worked at a real estate firm during the day and then took my classes at night over the summer, and you could knock out a good chunk of your credits. And then the final 2 years are a combo of JD and MBA classes. And so I think that the nice benefit I'll kind of say is there's a good cohort of people who do the JD MBA program. I would say there's about 10 to 15 in each class year. And so you really get to know those kind of people. And one of the things that I think the JD MBA program offers that other kind of attorneys might not have is that you can understand the business of your clients better. And you don't just have to be a corporate law attorney to do that, but even, trial attorneys, law is a business. And so I think, I'm going to be working in mergers and acquisitions. And so I think it's really helpful when I'm, working at my firm and those kind of things that, a client comes in and they have, accounting statements and financial statements, and you want to be able to understand that and talk, eloquently about the business. And I think a lot of clients really respect that at law firms. And I think that's another thing that, Villanova is on the kind of cutting edge of that, is that kind of our motto of where law meets business is very true here, that a lot of firms are really kind of looking to a business kind of connection to also supplement and support the legal studies. And the JD MBA program for me has been something that's been helpful even in the law school side of things, because whether you're taking business organizations or introduction to federal taxation, there's a lot of business concepts that I think, having an understanding of the business school professors, kind of taught it one way and the law school professors teach it another. It's helpful, and you kind of have a leg up a little bit in some of the law business classes. And then lastly, for kind of a career standpoint, I think a lot of people think of a JD MBA program, they think, okay, you're going to go do corporate law, transactional, but really I've seen a number of the people, at least in my program, are going and doing a wide range of careers in law, and some aren't even doing, a strictly law route. They might be kind of working in-house at a business, or, thinking about being in a law firm for a few years and going and working strictly for a business. So I think there's a lot of things you can do with a JD MBA program, and the degree to me is something that I think really has a lot of synergies between it and parallelisms between the two degrees.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier that I think I'll share right now is that for the JD MPA program, Evan, you can second this, the GRE is waived, right? So you don't have to take another entrance examination. And for the MBA program, if your LSAT score is above a 160 and your undergraduate cumulative GPA is above a 3.0, you can waive out of the GMAT, which is another great benefit because you don't have to study and take another entrance examination, right? So those are two things I want to point to. When it comes to the MBA program, similar to the MPA program, there's a lot of credits that are being shared between both programs. The MBA program has a 15 credit elective requirement, and 9 of those 15 credits can come from the law school, right? And so in essence, over the course of your time as a student here at Villanova, there's an opportunity for you to save somewhere around $11,000 on the cost of the MBA program because you pay per credit hour in that program. So the cost of each credit hour does go up each year, the same thing with the MPA program, but because of the credits that you're bringing over from the law degree, you're saving over $10,000 for that second degree that you're receiving. And once again, like Tyler and Evan talked about, you're getting both degrees in 3 years, which is a really, really great benefit as well. Rachel, last but not least, for sure, if you want to share a little bit about your decision to do the JD LLM and taxation program, maybe if you also want to speak to, I think we talked about this earlier, how you're doing it differently than how some other students do it, and maybe how some of your peers are doing it with an eye more towards maybe where they're going after they graduate and potentially choosing to do it for that reason, if you know what I mean. And then kind of the application process, as you can recall it, things like that.
Sure, absolutely. So I am doing my LLM in taxation. It is a little bit different. The earliest you can apply is the end of your fall of your 2L year. And the earliest you can start then, if you get accepted right away, is the spring of 2L year. So it is kind of hard to do in 3 years. You do have to go through the summer, but it is possible. So the application process, you can apply anytime. So you can apply as a 3L. A little bit about me. I did not come in knowing I wanted to do my LLM in tax. I wasn't thinking tax at all, actually, but I took Introduction to Fed Tax and I absolutely loved it. You either love or hate it, and I loved it. And I wanted to see what other tax classes were offered at the law school. And unfortunately, there's not many in the JD curriculum. So that's how I found out about the LLM. And that was the big reason why I decided to pursue my LLM. Once I decided I really liked tax, I wanted more specialized knowledge than, the law school could offer me. And so the application process itself, they recommend that you sit down with the graduate tax program faculty director. His name's Stephen Olson. He's great. He'll talk to you about why you want to go and do the LLM and kind of practically speaking what it looks like if you can do it in 3 years or you can finish post-grad. And then you do the online application, you submit a resume, all of your transcripts, so Villanova law transcript that you've completed so far, any undergrad transcripts or any other graduate transcripts you have, and then you wait to hear back. The LLM is different. So like the MPA program, as far as I know, there are 8 weeks, each class is 8 weeks, so you can fit more classes in each year. And so that's how I've been able to do it, both degrees in 3 years. We have 2 smaller semesters in one JD semester. That means the classes are condensed. We do a lot of readings. They're still only an hour, hour and a half. Everything is online, just like the MPA students. Most classes are online. All of mine have been online. I know there are some that are in person, and they're all in the evening. So that's how they're a little bit different than the JD program.
And I was going to mention too, on top of that, so Rachel's doing this in 3 years. At the same time, there are going to be students, right, Rachel, that end up, let's say, figuring out where they spend their second year summer of law school, and then maybe their employer is like, great, we're going to hire you full time, and you're going to be doing something like private client services, or you're going to be doing estates and trusts and wills, and you need to get your LLM in tax. And so there are opportunities at times where some students have their employers send them back to school almost to get that LLM in tax because it's going to be beneficial to them in the long run, right? So different ways to kind of come at the LLM and taxation program. Their admissions office is actually housed within the law school building itself as well. So if you go online and you look up the graduate tax program for Villanova, you'll be able to interact with their admissions office because they handle the applications independently. But as we've talked about today, all four of these programs are in a position where you come to Villanova first for law school. These are opportunities that you can explore here as a student, but don't need to feel as though you have to do, right? You might want to. And like all these students, I think in one way or another, except for Rachel, I think they may have been thinking, hey, listen, like this is an opportunity that I will take advantage of, or I hope that I do. And like Rachel, there are some students that get surprised by what piques their interest, and then they decide to pursue a joint degree program because of that reason. There's a question here that talks about, is it difficult to attend an international university that isn't already partnered with Villanova? And I know that that might be a little tricky for you to answer, but I can also address it a little bit as well. If you want to start, I can add to it afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually did apply to another university other than Leiden, the partner school. So I actually did kind of go through this process. It's not difficult as long as you are on top of your timelines. Like Phil mentioned earlier, like the most important part of this whole application for the international LM is that you need to be aware of deadlines and not miss any, because on top of just application deadlines, you'll have things like if you get accepted to school, you have to consider like visa, resident permit deadlines and things like that, or finding an apartment. And you definitely don't want to miss that, or else you can't get in the country. But anyway, back to applying to other schools. You just need to take initiative to find the partner school that you're interested in. And then for me, once I found something that I was also interested in attending, I was kind of weighing between the two. I sent that information to Professor Edelman. I told her that I was also interested in applying to this other school. And then she was able to contact people over at that school, admissions over there, and kind of establish like the necessary link for me to be able to apply to that school. And also like they would understand that I'm doing this JD LLM program. So it wasn't too bad, but you just need to, take initiative, be on top of what school you want to go to, and communicate that information as soon as possible, I would say, rather than later, so that Professor Edelman and you and the school knows that you are interested in them. So yeah.
I'll add to that I'm going to share Professor Edelman's email address here in the chat box, because she is more than willing to speak to students that are interested in this program. And of course, because a lot of this is, preparation and like we said beforehand, time management, she of course is always willing to speak to students about their interest in the JDLLM program and how they can go about pursuing it for themselves. I will add on to what Emma said that, there are going to be times where there are some programs, for example, like we've had students that have gone to Oxford and Cambridge, right? And so if that's the case, the limitation or sort of the difficulty there would be that they want you to probably be like at the very, very top of your class. Understandably so, right? But it's not to say that students at our law school haven't done that or haven't been able to do that. It's just that there are going to be some nuances depending on where it is you want to be. So let me put her email address in here to the chat box. The next question that I see here, I'll go to Rachel for this. Do you see many people in your program have any interest in also sitting for the CPA exam post-graduation?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are some who want to sit for the CPA exam post-grad. I will not be. I'll just be sitting for the bar exam. A lot of the people in my classes are also working professionals who work full-time, and many have worked in many different sectors or some area of tax. And so some of them are tax professionals in the sense that they are CPAs, and they might be in my class because they're doing their MT, which is a Master of Taxation. So that's available to non-JD students as opposed to the LLM. So there are some people who take the CPA. I personally don't know of anyone doing my program that's taking the CPA, soon, and it will not be me.
There's a question here that I guess I can address really quickly about the JDLLM and International Studies program. It says, based on the different schedules for international schools, are there any issues with employers who are taking the bar exam? So, Nicole, that's a great question. And I think Emma hinted at it earlier. Depending on the program that you're joining, you're going by that international school schedule. Some of them actually end really early. Some of them end in March or April of your third year. Emma's program ends in August, right? So, of course, that affects her ability to sit for the July bar exam because she won't be able to study during bar prep the way that other students will be able to. In terms of employers, I wouldn't say that it necessarily impacts employers. I think that, of course, if you're going abroad, but you already have a job back here stateside, you would be communicating, of course, that you're going abroad your last year of law school and sort of what that looks like and the way in which that could potentially affect your ability to take the bar. Emma, was it an issue at all for your employer that you needed to come back and maybe take the bar exam in February?
No, it wasn't an issue at all. They were very understanding of it. I told them like early on when I was working for them last summer, and yeah, I will be taking it in February, but they had no issue with it. I think as long as you communicate like that early on, and everything should be fine, and I don't think you should have a problem.
Great. And then I see here a question that says, what advantages does a student with the JD, LLM, and International Studies have in finding a job in the legal market over law students who specialize in international law but just graduate with a JD? Once again, I can speak to this a little bit, but Emma, do you want to start off? How does the
Yeah, I
JD?
can start.
Yeah.
So I would say like, you have, unlike, students that are just specializing in international law or having an interest stateside, I think you, like as a JDLM international student, like you have studied abroad already. So you have familiarity with certain international laws. Like for me, I've been doing a lot of my classes, we talk about European law. So like now I have some knowledge of European law. And I think that's definitely a big advantage if you are working in the international world, not only like knowing US law, but also having some kind of understanding of laws outside the US is already a pretty big advantage. And I also think it's an advantage if you, like I kind of mentioned this earlier, if you want to find a job internationally, having also some kind of international LM or like having worked or having studied in a country that you want to work in is also a big advantage because you have some connection as opposed to someone who's just interested in international law and wants to work in the country but doesn't have like real connections. So I think those are kind of two major benefits. But I think the third one is, I think it's just kind of the life experience benefit, like being working international or sorry, not working, studying internationally, you have to get used to a new culture. You have to kind of learn how to adapt to certain problems quickly. And I think those are things that you can even emphasize if you are in a job interview and say, like, I have, studied internationally. So I've had to deal with like different cultures, work with people from different backgrounds. So I think those are things you can emphasize when you're applying for jobs.
I think you said that perfectly, Emma. And the only other thing that I'll add is that I think that obviously, not to call it a leap of faith, right, but you took that leap to go abroad for a full year. And so academically, but also professionally, I think that's going to stand out to employers who can interview you and you'll be able to share about your experiences, not at Villanova studying international law, but in the Netherlands, getting to kind of fully immerse yourself in that experience. Really quickly, before I get to Tyler for a question, there was a question that I'll let Rachel answer really quickly. It says, for clarification, do most students end up finishing the tax program in 3 years, or do some end up having to do it in 4?
Yeah, so you can do it in 3 years. I would say the majority end up doing it post-grad in 4, or maybe taking a year off and working and then coming back to it. It's possible to do in 3 years if you start as soon as you can and go through the summers, which is what I'm doing. So it's possible. It's just up to you and what you want to do.
Yeah, and like I said before, and I think that what ends up happening for a lot of those students that end up doing it in 4 years is that their employer might say to them, hey, like we'll pay for you to get your LLM in tax, go and do it. So they're not starting it necessarily when Rachel said she started hers. They're starting theirs later. It could be their third year of law school, and it could be after they graduate with their JD. And so that's the reason why. But technically, you can do what Rachel's doing. If you decide that you want to do it, there is a way to do it in 3 years. And of course, like Rachel said, it's a lot of work, but Tyler can attest to this, and so can Evan. All the joint degree programs are. You're graduating in 3 years, and you're doing another 15, 20, 25 credit hours on top of what the JD requires. So you're going to be busy regardless of whichever program you pursue, but you see them all here and they're all getting through those programs. I'm a testament to that as well. So it is possible. So don't psych yourself out. Tyler, there's a question for you here that says, for the summers where you worked and took classes, how intense was it? I've heard a lot of opinions about a 3-year versus a 4-year JD MBA because of this.
So this is a really great question, and I think this is something that, at first I was kind of like, oh my gosh, taking classes over the summer, that sounds really daunting. But I think it's one of those things. The school, both the business school and the law school, really try and accommodate you the best they can. A number of the other panelists have mentioned, there's online classes that you can take. You can be in person at Bartley, which is the business school here. And there are also weekend classes that I know the business school offers, where you go for, maybe it's like a Friday night from like 6 to 9, and then a Saturday and a Sunday, and you knock out a class over the weekend, which is a really nice thing that you can do over the summer. I think for me, one of the things I think was beneficial about kind of doing it over the summer is you keep on the same track with your law school class you entered with. I'm actually working this semester for a judge in DC who also had her JD MBA, and she did it at an institution where it was 4 years. And in talking with her, she said she wishes she could have done it in 3, because a lot of the 4-year programs, you do 1 year of law school, 1 year of business school, and then combo the last 2 years. And she said she got disconnected from the class that she'd entered with in law school. And so some employers, you're not on the same track of, law school hiring. If you're not if you're doing a 4-year program versus a 3. And so I think for me, and even, now that I'm in my 2L year, you still can do other things. You're not just, doing class all the time. I'm this semester 2 days a week in DC working for a federal judge. And you can work your schedule around, I think, like some of the other panelists mentioned, as long as you're kind of focusing and you have deadlines in your head and you're kind of being proactive and planning, it's all super, accommodating. You can make it work for sure. But I think it's a really good question.